see such lovely faces once again at 4 o'clock in the evening today. I'm a rainbow entrepreneur because I run 7 businesses, and when Vasvi said she's also writes poems, she writes poems. So I was reminded of my college times. So had a hobby like that. So that's it. Over to you, Anu.
Wonderful. Let's go to Sumita Mendirata. Thank you.
Hi everyone on the panel and on Facebook. So today we are on day 14 and I'm really excited and thankful to Anu for this invitation. So I'm Sumita Mendirata. I'm a consultant clinical psychologist and counselor, a remedial tutor, a read-on therapist, a licensed brain gym movement facilitator, and also a practitioner to modalities like EFT and Matrix. Thank you.
Brilliant. Let's go to Gopu sir.
Hi, I am Gopu Raman. I'm a coach and a strategic consultant. I help entrepreneurs to scale up and also startups to grow. I love being here on the panel and enjoy every topic that comes up every day. Thank you, Anu, for that.
Thank you so much. Let's go to Joe.
Hi, everybody. Thank you. It's lovely to see you all again. And so my background is in teaching, meta health and metakinetics. For the last 3 years, my role in the world has been as a mother to my son. And in a personal development sense, my own personal interest is really in mental and emotional well-being for myself and helping others as well.
Wow. Brilliant. Let's go to Yogini Thakkar, Aurora.
Hey everyone, my name is Yogini and I'm a mind coach. I'm also a past life regression therapist. I use imagery, EFT and various other modalities, basically trying to help everyone come out of their own fears, their own demons and start living life. You know, that's your sole purpose here. So thanks Anu for all these lovely sessions.
Thank you so much. You should all acknowledge Dr. Rashmi Arora for this.
Thank you, Dr. Rashmi.
She was the motivation behind the whole story. And if she and I were not having this conversation, these talks wouldn't have happened. So deep each and every one of you.
Deep acknowledgement to you, Anu.
Because if you all were not much accepted, received with love, if you all were not here, this show, and if I was talking alone, it doesn't. You know, somewhere I've just realized, till you do not have different people and different opinions, it's a very empty talk. That's just my opinion of the whole thing. I'm sure everybody has differently. Okay, so let's go with the topic and why this topic was so important. And as I already mentioned, we were speaking about Ravan and Ram yesterday, and Ravan is supposed to be the villain, the bad guy who actually kidnapped Sita, Ram's wife, but later people said, oh my God, but he took care of his sister, and this war that he was playing was because of his sister. He just wanted people to learn a lesson of what it means. And he had never been unkind to Sita, so much so that he never looked at her in a negative way. He kept her in that exile in the forest, like, I wouldn't call him, say, sister, but he didn't touch her and didn't try to invade into her privacy, into her body, or into her life otherwise. So why is it that he was called a villain? And why is it a stepmother is called a villain? Why is it that a vamp, the other woman in the man's life, is always the one who is said, oh my God, she is the bitch? And why is it that we are so busy making few people the bitches and few people what you call the bad men in our life? And why are we doing that? So let's understand it more from everybody's point of view. I would go first with Yogini. I would really like to hear what she has about this. Thank you.
Wow, thanks Anu. And that's a very deep question. And when we brought up the topic of Ravan, and I was on the way back, I was thinking on the way back home, what about Ram? Is Ram the kind of husband also that everybody wants? He did not, for the sake of his people, actually didn't doubt his wife, but his wife had to give the Agni Pariksha, right? So today, when you look at husband, you want someone who stands by you. So do we learn from Ram that you should look for people more than your relatives? I mean, your own people. And I think that's what today also, I think in this world, everybody does that, right? We care for people more than our loved ones somewhere. कि वो क्या सोचेगा, ये क्या सोचेगा, right? So who is the villain here? Where is there's the mythology, the villain? What are we learning from it, you know? One thing he did really well was like he was one woman man, which is one thing he changed in the world, because that's what we look at now. So that was a big change. But otherwise, what are we learning? So it is about what you want to learn, what you want to perceive. Even Ravan may be the villain, but Ravan gave Ram his purpose of life. So what you want to look at it, the way you want to look at it, is just the way you can think about it. It's very easy that, you know, someone is trying to give you a gift. It's on to you. You accept or not. People will keep giving you their actions, but it's on how you respond. Either you learn from it or you throw your emotions back. That makes the person the villain or the teacher. So either a person is a villain or the teacher. You have to take it your way.
Absolutely. I would like other panelists also to tell me. So we'll go over to Manish from here. Manish, the same question.
Hi. Yeah.
I would consider, what would you think about? So we're right now only speaking about Ravan. We'll come back to the stepmother syndrome later. So why Ravan was considered a villain? And is Ram a villain? Is Ravan a villain? What's really going on there?
Thanks, Anu. And you know, I've got this comment a couple of times that I have a fertile upper story, so I can't help but you know, dwell on what Yogini just said. And I was just thinking, she made one statement while saying that, you know, Ram was a one-woman man, and we look forward to it. So I'm, you know, whenever you have time, so I have a lot of thoughts here, and I want to know one man, woman, one woman, a man, you know, both ways.
We're talking about it today. The vamp is the man's life. We'll come slowly to it. That's why I said stay with the topic. Right now, only about the bad man, the Ravan, the bad man who picked up Sita and took her away from and was painted as a bad man. And Ram, who actually left the whole kingdom and reached the forest and stayed with his wife in exile for 14 years, was considered as a saint. And of course, his brother went along with him. Bharat was there. But really, what are we looking at? Is Ravan, and why is Ravan considered a bad man when he was as committed as Ram was?
Correct. So Anu, I'll still take another 30 seconds to get a little diverted from the topic, because, you know, I have this flair of trying to do things with a little bit of maybe humor and outside stuff. So when you brought me back to the topic, you know, you reminded me of my Hindi teacher, and she used to say that, you know, we are all like cows and buffaloes, and how they are tied. There's a khuta there. So she says that whenever you're talking on a panel or a debate, she should tell us, think of that cow who's tied to that khuta. You should never go beyond it. So I got little, you know, diversified, and thank you for bringing me inside. Okay, now coming back to the topic right away. Now, as you rightly said, Ravan had a lot of good qualities in him. And a couple of things which you just said, like protecting his sister, then, you know, respecting Sita in his way. I mean, to be very honest, I don't think in that matter of respecting Sita, I don't know how many men in today's world would qualify that parameter. They would have a woman inside their house, caged up, and they would respect her privacy. I don't know how many of us would qualify. So, very rightly said, but I would like to just give my thought with a view that, you know, what I feel Ram did most of the time, and what I feel we should take a big lesson from there, and, you know, and why Ram inspired. So if you look at it, one of the things going into the Ram story is that he sent Sita to exile later on. And I find Ram guilty there. But what I've learned from this entire Ramayana, and what I feel is, in a bigger scheme of things, what Ram was trying to do was he was trying to create a model conduct for the world to follow. So when you're doing that, then you have a bigger goal to achieve, and you are not being that objective or that logical, which we are normal in our day-to-day business or day-to-day routine life. So I guess from that bigger objective, Ravan is a bad man and Ram is a good man. So, and if we narrow it down, we'll find faults in both of them. That's it, Anu, from my end.
Thank you so much. Very well said that there is darkness in light and there is light in darkness. You can never have an object. Physics will not stand there if there is only light and no shadow or no darkness, and there is no darkness and there is no light. Even a small beam of light in the pitch darkness can create more light than anything else. So that's how Manish is saying that probably it's for the bigger world that he couldn't set up and be objective. Yes, there are faults on both the sides. So this is how they just wanted to bring up one very evil and one very bright side of the whole story, creating a dimension where the society had to say that this is the perfect man, this is how we should behave. Yes, Yogini, I think there's something firing inside her. She wants to say something. Yogini?
No. It just got unmuted by mistake, but amazing. I love the conclusion that Manish just drew. It's just about what you think and what is beneath. Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. Let's go to Jo. She is alien to this culture, alien to Ramayana. But I'll just brief it for her. If there were two people, one who was protecting and one who was a villain, why would you call a villain, and why would you call a good man a good man?
Thank you for sharing. And I feel a bit humbled to be invited here because obviously I don't know your traditions and stories. And I know that Indian culture, they're so rich and there's so much to learn from these stories. I feel that generally, from my understanding of the archetypes and the characters, that they're actually reflections of parts of our own psyche. So it's all about actually self-learning, and really there are no villains and there are no heroes. It's actually accepting all parts of us. So what I'm hearing from Manish and from Yogini today is that actually reframing the villains and reframing the heroes and looking at them in a more balanced way is really important and valuable. So that's what I'm getting from everybody here. Thank you.
Thank you, Jo. And so well said. There are no heroes and there are no villains. It's just the parts of us and our psyche, and these are all archetypes which actually show up in the sand play. When children do sand play, they actually show these up and they are put over there. And these are nothing but part of their psyche that gets displayed on the sand play. So it's very beautiful what you've actually said. That's exactly what the psychiatrists look at and try to pitch in and see where is the kid. So let's go to Rashmi Arora with the same question.
Anu, I believe that the war happened because not because Ravan had kidnapped Sita and Ram had left Sita. It was not because the question should not be there. The question should be there that we make a person a bad man in our lives to carry on. Why does it happen? Like it's something like बच्चा सो जा गब्बर आ जाएगा.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
why do we do that?
Yeah.
Over the ages, over 10,000 years, the story might have changed many times, right? And the original story, nobody knows about it. Why did the war happen? It's just a presumption. So what I feel is, why do we make a person a bad man? Like we've made Ravan a bad man and not a Ram a bad man. Why do we do that? So we do that because we have to make somebody bad to get to get out of something, to get a control of something.
So is it that we are not taking responsibility there? And
It's not a matter of responsibility. I feel that it's a matter of taking a control over something. Like I mean, in the Hindi movies, everybody must have heard Ajit's dialogues. Lily, don't be silly, or Mona, darling. So a bad man was made to create interest in the story. That okay, there is a bad man, there is a good man, and now in the end, the good wins over the evil. That is how things have been, and stories have passed on generations to generations. It's not only about Ramayana, but it's about other stories also. And with fairy tales, as you mentioned, there was always a good person, there was always a bad person, and the evil queen or the evil king would ultimately uh, crumble down. So probably it was passed on over the generations to give an impact that good wins over evil every time.
Thank you so much for that. It was really rich substance that you spoke about. Let's go to Vasavi. Yes, Manish, I'm coming back to you right away. Okay, why not we hear Manish and then go to Vasavi? Let's do that.
Thanks, Anu. So you have such great August panelists here that my fertile brain keeps thinking of what Rashmi said. That
Bring it.
we need a story which should have a bad person and a good person. And if you so, I was just wondering, all of us perhaps have prayer in our routines, and we pray to something, we pray to God, right, as a matter of routine. But just think of a world what Rashmi just said. If everybody was Ram, there was no Ravana at all in past, present, who would we pray to? So I'm just thinking aloud. So Anu, over to you.
Thank you. So over to Vasavi. Thank you, Vasavi, for being here.
Of course. So I think the answer to this question is very broad because it's all about narratives and how stories have been told across generations. Since the beginning, we've always, even if you go to a writing class and you try to understand how to write a story, for a plot you need the antagonist and the protagonist. So you need someone to bring out the goodness of the hero. It's almost like the hero or the protagonist cannot be good if there isn't a polar opposite for the audience to compare him or her to. So it's interesting how we cannot have someone who's just good. We don't like without any comparison. So a lot of our stories are based on character comparison, and it's almost to be good and strong, you need to win over the bad. You cannot just simply be good and strong by yourself. So I find that very interesting. For instance, in our fairy tales, Red Riding Hood, there was the big bad wolf, and we needed that to give that contrast to her character. So even Ravan, in that instance, it's almost like Ram was not perfect because Ramayana is a story of extremes: the perfect son, the perfect father, the perfect wife. So the other woman in the story is Kekai, who also is the third wife, and she's the other woman or the stepmother, and she's again the person who is blamed towards the end for the exile. And Ram, as we just spoke about, he's the one who did banish Sita for exile. So in a way, Ravan, I think, is there to almost distract the audience away or the readers away from the shortcomings of the hero. Like, so it's a very easy and a very, very convenient way of just blaming everything on Ravan. Even though Ravan may have been to blame for certain things, but may not be to blame for everything, we can just simply point and be like, oh, it was Ravan. Oh, it was Ravan. So I think that happens and it's repeated throughout history. For instance, I would like to bring up something I studied in college about the World War II. Hitler actually, when World War I happened and Germany was defeated, this was before Hitler came to power, he created this whole myth and this story about how Jews are evil people and how they want to take over jobs and how they are actually secretly of an unnatural birth. And he gave them demonic qualities and spread a lot of rumors through propaganda. And he said Germany was defeated in World War I because there were Jewish spies, even though there has been no evidence found of this. So in a way, it was very convenient to build this narrative around Jews as a villain. And then history repeated itself where Jews were persecuted and then Germans became the villain. So I think it's all about the victim becomes the villain becomes a victim. And the villains are used in all these stories, I think, just to divert blame away from the hero. So
Absolutely. I will come back to you, Yogini. There's still two panelists who I haven't spoken anything to. And let me just take their view and then come back to you. So hold your view. It's really precious and important. Let's go to Gopu sir with the same thing.
I wanted to bring about the point that Ravana is not a bad guy. So Ravana did a lot of tapas he did a lot of tapas for a long time, and he was a Shiva devotee. So he got some uh, what do you say, vows from Lord Shiva that if you uh, if you do this, you will get this. So he had achieved that level actually. So he was like a very, very powerful sage, very powerful sage. He was actually not a bad man. The point is, the story of Ramayana revolves around two people, which is one is Rama and one is Ravana. Basically, in two different countries, and how this Sita being kidnapped is brought about, and why Rama had to go into a battle to get Sita back. But the point of the matter is, Ravan was not a villain. He has been painted as a bad guy. So in life, if I'm drawing a parallel this to our life, in our lives also, circumstances make people turn bad or play a bad role or do something which is bad for somebody else. Then they are termed as villains or they are termed as enemies or whatever you want to call them. So this is what is life is all about. It is truly because of circumstances that you are compelled to do certain acts in life. That's my point of view.
Wow. Sumita.
Okay, so last but not the least, I've heard everyone, and I would say that definitely I agree with Gopu sir and many other panelists who have, tried to say that, somewhere Ravan has a lot of other virtues apart from the evil character. So I believe that there's a concept of duality in every one of us, and that was the same with Ravan. He was an extraordinary scholar. He had so many other positive virtues. He was a king of a country. So only thing was maybe he was just aggressive and arrogant, and maybe that one step which he took to kidnap Sita really changed the whole scenario. So like a situational decision which he made at that time really made portrayed him into the whole character of what the story was about, the whole Raman, like how the Ramayana was framed. So I don't think so that really the villain or the vamp or the character. So there was it was a very I would say a reflex action which he took just to protect his sister, or just like a impulsive decision which he took, and that is how things happen. So
So it's
that's my viewpoint.
not even actions that make a person bad or good.
Pardon?
It's not even the actions that make the person bad or good. It is the circumstances in which he's standing that are going to describe that the action that he took is bad or good. Just like we discussed about Ravan, I would like the panelists right now to look at the bad lady. So we'll look at the first bad lady that most of us have been introduced to at a very tender age, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 years of age, with fairy tales. I don't know any fairy tale that did not have a stepmother. And the stepmother, of course, had 3 or 4 daughters who would torture this poor little girl. She was made to do all the work of the house. She wasn't even given clothes, proper clothes, not given proper food, wasn't even given a proper bed. She probably had to sleep with the rats in the attic. And then she suddenly reaches and a man rescues her, like Ram rescued Sita. Here the difference is that the stepmother jumps into the place of the Ravana. And the person who's going to rescue her is, by chance, she lands up in this party where into a palace where all her animals have stood by her, created a pumpkin into a carriage, given her a beautiful dress, and there She's going right there into the palace, and she has to run away from there at the strike of 12. You all have guessed what story I'm talking about. And then her glass slipper is the only thing left. She's disappeared again back into rags. And then the man has to actually recognize who that beautiful girl was, because she wasn't beautiful otherwise, without her clothes, without her carriage, and without her shoes. And the minute she wears that, only she fits into that shoe, she comes back to life again and becomes as beautiful as she was before. So I can see Yogini raising her hand right here. She also wanted to talk with the before instance. So Yogini, over to you. Thank you.
So, Anu, while we were talking about, let me just finish the Ram and Ravana, because a very beautiful incident happened that I was telling my children the story of Dashera. And they questioned me, Mama, but why Ram and Ravan? And who are they? You know, it was a curiosity mind. Ke hai kaun ye? And I just came out of my mind, beta, you know what? Ram and Ravan are all part of you. Actually, you are the Ram, you are the soul. Sita is your good thoughts. Ravan is your bad thoughts or your fears, who actually take over Sita, who take over your good thoughts and capture them. And when Hanuman comes, that's your conscious thoughts, that's your consciousness, which tells you, go and fight for what is good. So this is what I told them. And when, you know, Vasvi was telling it, that it's very easy to blame. So today, when we don't achieve something, we easily blame it to our fears. The same way we blame Ravan for what happened, right? So this is how it is. And if I compare the story of Cinderella, the savior was not the handsome prince. The savior was actually the fairy godmother out there. And who is that fairy godmother? She was actually that faith and positivity inside Cinderella, that she is something. So despite of all the negativity that she went through, she did not change. She did not change her hope and faith. And that's where the fairy godmother, that hope, really helped her come out of it. So it was her positivity and hope that transformed into a fairy godmother. हम बोलते हैं ना, जब when you have the will, the God will show you the way. So we have to hope. So neither one of them was a villain. It was just her learning. She had to learn from that and hold on to her faith and hope.
Thank you so much, Yogini, for that. You beautifully put it in a very streamlined fashion. But I would really like others to ask others the same question and see if we have similar views or different views. So I'll go over to Vasavi from here. Vasavi, the stepmother. Why is the stepmother always blamed? And not just the stepmother, her daughters, they were all ugly, they were all horrible looking. They couldn't make it. Why was the ugliness and prettiness given so much of importance, and the dress and the clothes and the props and everything? Why these stories 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 year and 6 years old? Yes, possibly.
I think it's working on a lot of subtle levels. In fact, I want to connect this Cinderella, the story of Cinderella, to a lot of our Indian TV soap operas, because even in our Indian TV soap operas, there's a very good girl in it who's doing everything and cleaning the house, and she's very pretty. And then sometimes we have a stepmother and the daughters. And the similar contrast between the fairy tale and the soap operas that I've seen is in all of them, the people who are supposed to be blamed are the ones who are supposed to be not that pretty, who are wearing maybe too much makeup, who are wearing clothes that are more sleazy, who want more things for themselves. So it's a very subtle message these fairy tales are giving, that women who maybe like to dress up more, or maybe enjoy certain things in life, who have certain riches, or who have been born with certain privileges, are maybe not, they're not entitled to it, or they are coming across as some kind of stereotypical bitch, something like that. So this is the it's almost like to show how pure and how beautiful this woman is. The other women around her need to be ugly, or they need to be very selfish. And I think even when we go down to understanding, okay, but what is it that these people are doing that is so selfish? Sometimes if we really think for ourselves, we in today's world, maybe all of us have some part in us that is like these other women. They like to dress up, they like good dresses, they like to go to parties, because this is what the Cinderella fairy tale said, that the daughters would like to go out, they wanted to go to the ball, they were designing their dresses from before, but Cinderella never had the privilege to do that. So and also this ugly beautiful, I'm really glad you brought that up, because I feel like it's almost that it's almost in a very messed up way saying that, okay, just because you are ugly, just because you are behaving in a certain way, you are also ugly, because who are we to decide who is ugly and who is not ugly? And I feel the other thing these fairy tales did is very, very conveniently try and give this message that a woman needs a man to save her from everything that is happening to her. Cinderella could not take the step and maybe walk out of the house and do it for herself. She needed the man with the riches to come and save her. And the same story, I just add one more point with Rapunzel, which I always found very interesting, was Rapunzel lived in a tower, a very tall tower, and her hair was let down. And the stepmother or the mother, I think the other woman in that fairy tale, she would climb her hair to come and go on top. And even the man had to save her by climbing the ladder through her hair. If you think about it, it was Rapunzel's hair. The power was in her hands, but that was never highlighted. So I really wanted to talk, like, I think that's very important, because the power is always with the female characters, but these fairy tales somehow try and give the message that they cannot use their power and they need someone else to come and help them use their power.
I just love the way you highlighted these points, and I'm just beginning to wonder whether it's a safe thing to do to bring fairy tales to our children, because the kind of stereotypes, the kind of stuff that these are giving subtle messages will probably take hundreds and hundreds of years to clean it up. Let's go over to Joe from here. Joe, you can definitely relate to all the fairy tales, and I'm sure you've read a few. Why always these steps, mother, and beautiful and ugly, and riches are good, and poor lady suddenly became rich, and the contrast that they show, and like all the points that Vasavi said, if you have any more of your own to add over there, that would be really a privilege. Thank you.
So my learning about this topic has come from an author called Clarissa Pinkola Estes, and she's talking about a lot of these myths and archetypes, and actually how over the centuries they've become more and more stereotypical and misogynistic. And actually the original meaning of them is very powerful. So like the wicked old witches were once the wise old women, they were like the elders, and they've been twisted over time. So I think what's really powerful in what she's written is how to get back to the original meaning of self-empowerment from these stories, and just to really look at what Vasavi said, that everything is part of us. So it's like the power is coming from these women that we don't see as powerful in the modern way of putting them across. And perhaps when the man comes to save them, that's actually also the women getting in touch with their own power. If we look at the masculine side of ourselves, which we've all got, that's about stepping out into the world and achieving things. So I think if we go back to the original meaning, they're actually much more powerful.
Wow. I have a request to make, Joe. If you can go on the Facebook and please write down the name of the author, so that if anybody is interested in reading, they can definitely go back and read. I would really thank you for that. Thank you. Let's go to Manish. Manish, have you been through fairy tales, or even when you read about the religion or anything, the bad, the good, all this is there? And what is this all about, according to you?
So let me, quote, let me go back, rather dive into history and go back to my own life. So I was very much impressed with Cinderella or her character. And there was, so I had a younger sister, and one of her friends I would always refer to her as Cinderella. So I guess I'm now thinking, and you have such august panelists. So I'm just thinking, it's the way the story has been presented to us. The girl, the girl who's been mistreated by the stepmother, who's been mistreated by her stepsisters, a beautiful young lady. So I guess your heart goes out to somebody like that. So I'm just thinking, if the same beautiful girl is in a palace and has all the riches and everything, maybe you would not desire her that much. So it's I guess the human mind is such that when you see so it's combination of a lot of emotions there. Apart from love, attraction, I guess it's also about about trying to be about sympathy or something like that. Also connecting with Yogini here, when she connected with your last question and this question. So I want to leave you and all the panelists with a thought. So this is what comes to my mind. I'm just thinking, about the world the way it was when Ram used to rule and the way it is now that we have a democratic setup and all that. So I'm just thinking that in all this drama of life, and even if you look at Ramayana, or even if you look at all the entire history, Shakespeare, so basically it's a big drama as you look at it. So I guess one thing which stands out is a sort of a crime committed by a man against a woman. I guess across ages, across the globe, mankind has not taken kindly to it. So I have an advice for all the men. If it is possible that some woman irritates you or is not good to you, it is always possible, because women are also humans and they're prone to mistakes as well. The best way to deal with such a situation is to move away from that woman. But because if you try to hit her back, society is not going to take it lightly, and you will always get painted as the bad man. So this is little sort of a thing which comes out from both these stories here. And I am I'm a guy who was born to a mom who had only pure love in her heart, and right from my class 4 or 5, I have lived with love stories, be it a love story by Eric Segal or be it Akyo Ke Jaloke Se. So I have lived with love stories, and I have Jenny in my life all the time. So I would always go out with Cinderella, and I would always say, she is the girl. She's right, and she should get all the goodies in life. So, and I would not comment much on stepmother and stepsisters. I would say, as what we were discussing last time, it's also circumstantial, because what Mahatma Gandhi used to say, that no soul is bad. So you cannot have a stepmother with a bad soul. She is in that role. She did something wrong. That is because of something else, but her soul is good. So he used to always say that, that there's nothing like a bad person. It's only you can hate his or her deeds, but you cannot hate a person. That's what Mahatma Gandhi said. Over to you, Anu, with those thoughts.
Thank you so much. Let's go over to Rashmi with the same question. Fairy tales, and how we're talking about Cinderella right now, stepmother, stepsisters, and we have many more fairy tales like the Red Riding Hood, the Wolf, and so many others. So which fairy tale would you talk about right now, and what would you say about this whole thing?
Anu, first of all, I would like to say any fairy tale, be it Red Riding Hood, Cinderella, or any other fairy tale, or even any other story, like Manish had mentioned, love story and Akhiyon Ke Jharoke Se. These stories are created to create a visual impact on our brain. Whenever we are reading a story, we are creating a visual impact on a person, on a situation, uh, on an object, or anything. Even if we are drawing an object, we are drawing a pier, for instance, we are drawing a pier. We are visually seeing that pier. So these were created to create a visual impact, so that the story could be passed down in generations. So what I want to tell you is, very interestingly, is the word villain itself, actually what it meant before the 12th century was, it meant a peasant. It did not mean a person. Okay, if today, if we see the word villain, we would see a man who would be in a cape with a big coat, somebody hiding in the shadows. That's how we projected it, all our generations. So before the 12th century, this word had an impact which meant a peasant. Similarly, the word vamp simply meant a woman who would lure men with her charisma, or a witch. A witch was not a bad word. It was a word for women who were doctors probably at that time, or more probably healers at that time, and they were full of wisdom. Even the word witch comes from a person who possesses wits or wisdom. So these words were later deviated, or probably deviated is not the right word. They were molded into something else. What I understand is like a peasant. A peasant was a person who did not associate to the knightly values or the values of the high society. So he was an easy target. I'll give you an example, a personal example. uh, I was in Australia. My son was 2 years. So every night I was all alone over there, and my husband would be in the hospital. So he wanted to go out in the evening. So I used to take him. So once I met my husband's boss, and he said, Rashmi, this is very, very dicey over here. Don't come in this area around this time. So there are not certain good elements, and you should not come in. This is not a safe place. I said, fine. But my son, who was just 2 years, he wanted to be in that place every time. So I just told him, okay, come. They're bad man. Then he looked at me and he looked at the bad man. So he just looked at like me like this. I said, okay, no, a bugri man. I made a word out of it and I said a bugri man. I don't know how it came to me, what it came to me, but that way I could control him and tell him, okay, we are not going there because Bagdi man is there. Okay, so that is how I associate. Stories have passed on, but our real life stories tell us what. Okay, now today in today's sense, I would see what have I done. Why did I tell him? I just could have told him, but for my understanding at that time, a 2-year-old child would not have understood that thing. He could have just understood a word, something very catchy word, and get it and in his mind, and then think that, okay, Bagdi man. Bagdi man means don't go over there to him. So this is how stories are passed on. And similarly, one more thing. When he wouldn't be controlled. He would always. I told you a story last time also. I would be in a trouble sometimes. Or now I laugh because he's now 21 years old, or almost. And but at that time, I used to have challenges with him. So though today I don't agree to it at all, but that was my earlier days of parenting, which when I didn't probably know that much of parenting. So I would tell him, okay, don't go over there. Fox aa jayega. Sleep. Fox aa jayega. He has never seen a fox. I have also never seen a fox. But the fox becomes a villain for us because he will sleep with that thought in mind. Okay, I have to sleep. Fox time is it's the fox time now. The fox will roam around. So this is how stories are passed on. That's what I feel.
We need fear to make people streamlined and train them to do certain things.
Maybe not always, but
Maybe
that was a part when I thought I would probably discipline him in that way. I don't agree to it now, not at all.
I get that, but that's probably what we need at times when a mother gets really agitated, doesn't know what to do. So she's going to pull up from her sleeve something that's going to make him believe that if he did that, or if he went there, he's going to be in danger. So she's going to use terminology and say things which might leave an impression in the child's mind forever. But we are clearly saying stay away from danger, stay away from darkness, stay away from this. This is the way we want you to be obedient, and doing what we are asking you to do. If you're a rebel, then you will be bracketed as a bad person, somebody who wants to do anything out of the box. No. If you're too wise, no. If you're too this, no. Because if the witch was a wise woman, then she was too wise for her shoes. Somebody was too rich for their shoes. Somebody was too big for their stories. And all these people who were beyond the normal stories, like Ravan was a sage with extraordinary powers who was painted and tainted dark. That means anything that was really, really very, very good was painted black and was subjected and put and portrayed in front of the kids in a way that they wouldn't go near it. So I'm like really really interested in that. But let's go over to Sumita because she's the last person to speak on. I think Gopu sir is also left. Yes, Sumita.
So my connection with the fairy tales is not that much, Anu. When I was growing up as a child, I would say, but it really got strong when my daughter was growing up. So one day, she just, as she was growing up, maybe 2.5 years, and she used to see or hear these stories. And one day I just told her, can you give me this? Like, and she said, okay. And then I told her one more thing, can you just do this? And then she told me suddenly, I think you are acting like a stepmom. I was just taken aback because this is a terminology which I had never used with her. And I was wondering from where did she get this word? So she said, I said, is it a new word we have learned? He said, yeah, you are absolutely acting like this. I know the story. Now you will tell me to do the mopping. Now, so she was very talkative and, early, this thing, talker girl. So, and from there, she really explained me very well what is the Cinderella story and what does the mom do. And she said, I'm really waiting for the prince to come to help me. So that is a good picture I got of the Cinderella story, which was not there in my memory at all. So that is one instance I would share, that, how she made that connection the moment I gave her, like, do this, do this, do this, which was not my intention at all. And she painted me the real picture. And the second instance was, in her school, she was given a character to play as a Rapunzel witch. So on one point, she was really excited because she was given a character to play. But the moment the teacher told me, that she's going to be playing at this, so I said, this is your job to make her agree, not my job. Okay, now you handle her because she'll be agreeing to it, but I don't know how much she will, because she knows all the stories and she's always in that princess mode. So I said, I don't know how will she act out of the witch mode. But the teacher said, I know she will really become a beautiful witch. I said, okay, if you can convince her. So the teacher really, told her the story that, this witch was somebody who brought up Rapunzel. She wanted to protect her, so she kept her in this. So she painted a wise picture of the witch, like Rashmi was sharing that, it is out of the wisdom. And she had to really portray that, aggressiveness in her. And I mean, she really got applauded to the extent that even the, all the school, the principal also stood and said, this is the most beautiful witch I have ever seen in the Rapunzel story. So she really got, and from there, her own picture of the witch actually changed, because when she became the witch, when she did that character, and she understood, and then she came up to say, I think Cinderella's mom was not that bad. It was just she was expecting some work to do. I think stepmothers are not. So, I think she lived that character even for a few minutes, I would say, but that made her realization. So I was always out of the story, but the way she connected me to both these stories, I think that's a beautiful experience I had. And that is what I wanted to share here.
No, that was such a beautiful sharing. And I'm beginning to believe that if we step into the shoes of the vamp, we step into the shoes of that stepmother, the mother-in-law, or we step into the shoes of Ravan, we might find excuses standing there and might look and turn things other way around. We'll go to Gopu sir, and then we open up for the next thing, the other woman in the man's life. I'm not going further because we picked up terminology, and let's just at least dip into it and we can continue the talk more on this, because I know again this is a very big topic, cannot be completed in like 1 hour, but we're making an attempt to bring to you various topics just to touch on it, at least to understand and accept that maybe we made a mistake, maybe they were not bad people. So over to Gopu sir.
Yeah. So on the point of fairy tales, I would like to say that when in India at least, children were told Indian fairy tales like Panchatantra, Jataka tales. So many lovely comics were coming at that time. So they were told those kind of stories. But why mothers told stories to children? Like Rashmi was talking about, it is either to make them do something, either eat the food that is kept on the table, or while you're feeding them, you if you tell a story, they will eat very well. or make them sleep, or not being naughty or playful. You try to divert the attention of the children by saying some fairy tales or stories, so that they will quietly listen. Their attention is diverted, and that is the purpose of telling these stories. But we forgot that this will have an impact on the children's brain. They will think differently, like how Sumita said about the Cinderella having an effect on her daughter, and how she started feeling that she was Cinderella, and she is waiting for the Prince Charming to come, like that. So, I will relate something related to that. My son, we used to tell him story, or not story. Actually, those times the cartoons started coming on television. So this Jagged character was there. Sorry, not Jagged. Popeye. Popeye character was there,
Oh boy.
who used to eat, yeah, Popeye, and he
Alec.
used to eat spinach and become suddenly strong and beat the hell of the other people. So
Yeah.
to make him eat that food and also like spinach sometimes, which is get added to the rice. So here you also have spinach, so that he'll become like Popeye. So the mothers goaded children with stories, and they told them these things so that they could eat the food that is made for them. So that is the idea of telling these stories. So
Advent-
every fairy tale got its own effect on the children. That's what I wanted to talk about. Yeah,
Wonderful.
Anu, you.
Feels like it's an advertisement for kids, a motivation that they create for kids. You can also become like that, or you should not be like that. And instead of saying a big thing of what like that, they're telling you a story in which way it should be. Let's open over here the topic of the other woman in the man's life. Oh my God, that is so amazing. I have my maid servant who's standing in front of me, and she's almost going to get her daughter back from the husband's house because the daughter found that her husband is getting calls from some woman, and she sheepishly picked up the number and actually called up on the number, and the number was answered by a lady. Now she's convinced. She doesn't know the age of the lady, she doesn't know anything, but she heard the sound of a lady saying hello and disconnecting. She's convinced that her husband is having an affair. And hell has broken loose because, and I'm not saying he may not be, and I'm not saying he will be. I'm just saying, putting forth to you the situation where the younger girl who's less than 20 years of age is suddenly feeling, oh my God, how can I be with this man? Because he's talking to probably another woman. I also have a habit of sending everybody this at the end of the message: hugs, love, kisses. It might be mistaken by the half the world thinking, oh my God, I'm sending love kisses. That means I must be having an affair. Okay, so it's quite hilarious that how some words, how certain things, just a voice on the other end can make another woman bad, and she's not taking the responsibility of seeing what's not going okay in her relationship. So quick at either blaming the other woman doesn't necessarily have to be someone outside the house. It can be the man's mother, that's the mother-in-law. It can be the man's sister, that's a sister-in-law. It can be uh, it can be anybody in his life other than her. And the hell can break loose if she is not given as much importance as she requires or she needs over there. And it's an unsaid story which has been going on in generations. I think women spend 20, after 20 plus is when women get married in my country. Some have child marriage still in our country. So the first 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 years are great. My mom got married when she was 20. My nanny got married when she was 15, 16. So the age has become higher. So the amount of time that you're going to spend with one man and you're not supposed to look anywhere else is kind of becoming shorter, but still we spend quite a bit of our time. So what would you say about this other woman in a man's life? I want a man's perspective on this. How do you deal with it when your wife gets jealous and thinks that you are walking around with another woman, or even looking at the other woman is a taboo? Like if she had her way, she probably, I'm not saying yours does it, but you can't be talking to her and looking at another woman. That's just not okay. Okay, let's talk. Over to Manish.
Thanks, Anu. I thought, this one is coming to me first. So, I, now I have been in a lot of state of dilemma myself all my life on this question. I really don't have an answer because I've been searching for this answer since about maybe 45 or maybe 40 years now. So if you look at my background, my own background, I have been infatuated with love stories. And what do all these love stories of across generations, across races, across globe have one thing in common? There's one man and one woman. There's no two timing. There's no other woman in all the love stories. I've never come across any love story where, except as Man, Woman, and Child by Eric Segal has two women in it, but that's not a typical love story. That's more like a family drama. So coming from that mindset, and then, also with my father as my ideal, who, and even Scarlett O'Hara, saying that live life king size every day. So it may happen. I'm not saying it happens with me. It may happen with anybody, any person that, you are not getting pure love with your wife. Now you are, as of now, you want to live this life to the fullest. And there's nothing wrong in that. So it's a very debatable thing. Now, so I would not say, so I would say what is right, what is wrong is again individual's perception, how you look at it. We are nobody to judge any relationship or even, our own actions according to the way society looks at it. So we have to take a call according to what our soul thinks about it. So if you think your soul thinks you're doing something wrong, then you're doing wrong. But if you think your soul is doing something right and the whole world thinks that you're wrong, it doesn't make a difference. So that's my take. So if you are having an extramarital affair and you're okay with it and your soul is okay with it, that's fine. And if you have your own logic and ethics to it. So that's my take on it. And I also believe, Anu, going a step forward, if you look at the reality, what's happening in our country and across the globe. So in fact, our country is in a stage where extramarital affairs, I think, are at their peak. And absolutely, I see them everywhere. And forget men, it's women. It's women. And sometimes, what do you do when you want to have an extramarital affair and you don't have a reason? So I say a bad wife is a blessing because it gives you a logic to have an extramarital affair. Now, what if you have a good wife? How the hell will you have an extramarital affair then? So, because how will you justify your own soul? So these are.
1.25 billion of us did not become without another marriage outside the marriage.
Yeah. So most of the
15 years back, that every person that I was visiting because of feng shui that I was doing at that time, that men would suddenly come and say, you know what, I have another woman outside. Or a woman would come and say, my man has another woman outside. It's so common. That's why I laughed.
Yeah. So that is what has changed. So now even women look for something. If they're not happy with their husband, they might go for an extramarital affair. 15, 20 years down.
Manish. A man and a woman together is called an affair.
Yeah.
So if a man was having another woman outside, then there was always a woman involved with a man.
Correct.
Why nowadays? It was
so
always...
the difference. I'll tell you the difference. Most of the time, 20 years ago, the woman man was having an affair with was not married. Now, now the things have changed. So there are a lot of married women as well in these affairs, which is fair enough from my angle, because I feel every individual has a democratic right. So if a woman in a marriage feels she should go out to another man, she has a right to do it. And we are nobody to question her character. And more so, even in Indian society, the trouble is that people judge women more strictly. You know, a man having couple of affairs is fine, but if a woman has, there are so many other women in her own life who would do her character assassination, which is unfair according to me. So, and also I see a little bit of a difference with West. So most of the West has gone through these stages, and now they say, boss, let's avoid marriage. It's pretty complicated. Let's live single till 50, 60 or whatever. And after that, let's get married. Now, what happens after 50 or 60? The men in most of the times above 45 I've seen in West. Once they've crossed 45, they say, no, boss, now I'm going to live single. I'm not going to get married at all. Now, women after 45 want to get married. So it's a very strange phenomena, you know, and it's so that's how the world is. And I guess, you know, this world is a fantastic place. You have so much to enjoy here. So do whatever you feel like. That's it. Thank you, Anu.
Manish says, do whatever you feel like. And he's been talking about the Western world. So let's go to the Western world. That's Joe. Joe, what do you think? Is the vamp, is the other woman in the man's life, or another man in the woman's life? What do you say about it? Thank you.
Yeah, so what I've just got something interesting from listening to Manish telling that story is actually that women, young women, girls are brought up with this fear of the male predator. And it's like that, you know, the man that's coming to rape or to attack the young woman. And actually the vamp might be a form of female predator that the female is also afraid of, because it's somebody that's going to come and take your man away when you get older. So it's interesting that men don't have such a fear. They might like the vamp, it might be attractive, and maybe men don't have such a fear of men as women do. So women have got this dual fear now of like, the men are coming to rape me and the women are coming to take my man. Wow. Lots of fear there. Yeah. How can we break out of that cycle of fear? How can we start to love and trust each other and understand each other more, so that we're not living in fear of everybody on the outside world?
Let's pick that up for a topic, but not tomorrow. That topic could go for the day after. For tomorrow, we already have decided the topic. So yeah, that could be something that, how could you break out of these shackles of fear that we are investing in? And not just that, we are passing it down the generation and passing distrust and mistrust and horrible relationships. Let's go to Vasavi. Vasavi, what do you think? A vamp. The other woman.
So I think the other woman it's like a stereotypical idea, and it helps a lot of women who are dealing with maybe their husbands or their boyfriends cheating on them. It helps them live in denial, because sometimes instead of facing the fact that maybe he's just not that into you, you put all the pressure on the other woman and blame the other woman completely for everything that's happened, as if she has lured your man, or she has it's all her fault. So it's almost like the man cannot be to blame. And I've seen this again and again. And I think by protecting the man, you're also the woman is also protecting her own choice of choosing the man, and almost saying that the man cannot be wrong. And somewhere this other woman, maybe even if there's no affair happening, or there's suspicion, or there is an affair happening, this other woman becomes like a projection or a symbol of of our fears and insecurities. It's like as if women are anyway thinking we are not enough on our own to hold our man to us. Like we are not, something about us, there's something lacking in us. That's why he's going to look somewhere else. Or we are not grooming ourselves well, or we are not pretty enough, or we are not intelligent enough, or something like that. And this other woman almost becomes a symbol for all these fears and insecurities, that because we are not enough, the man is looking elsewhere. So it's almost like we are searching for ways to tell us that yes, we are not enough, yes, we are not enough, yes, we are not enough. That said, I'm not saying that if there is another woman, to be in denial about it and pretend that she does not exist. That is also another form of denial. But to say that it's all the other woman's fault is a very is again this villain and perpetrator syndrome, where you create one person as the villain, and the man becomes almost like the victim in the situation. And I feel that has very severe double standards, because it's almost like, oh, he couldn't help it, or oh, it's because you didn't do much. And I've seen that happen in my own family and extended families where maybe there have been extramarital affairs. So that's all I'd say.
That was from the heart. I think I've touched a topic that really touches people right now. The other woman. And ouch, it really feels like that I've touched the hot live fire, because I can see people's faces and expressions. And somehow, it just feels that's a right topic, actually. So I'm going to go over to Rashmi from here. And Rashmi, why is the woman always the bitch? Why is it that the other woman is the one who's stealing away the man, the brother-in-law, or someone? Why is it that it can't be that they have to maintain responsibility within the relationship?
It's easier to put a blame on somebody, and somebody who's not your own. That's the very easy blame to put on. But if it comes to my connection is not unstable. Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Okay. But if it comes to somebody who's close to you, you will be the last person to put a blame on them, because you still have an advantage with them. That's what I feel.
Wow. So we basically, whether it's a mother-in-law, whether it's a vamp, whether it's a Ravan, whether it is the sister-in-laws, the bitches and the witches, they are all those people who we did not love. It is people who we loved were men, and all these women were like those bitches that needed to be thrown into the fire, into the gallows. And if only they were not there in your life, then your life would be jingalala, the best ever possible. Oh my God. I mean, have we forgotten that there was polygamy always there? Animals, we emerged out of animals. Have we forgotten that there was no monogamy there? And are we expecting and taming ourselves to be something that we never were? And then we're putting moral standards on it. And we're even bringing love and affection into it. Just a thought that came by. And so I thought I'll ask it loudly. Let's go to Yogini. She's always on fire and gives a spicy.
Yeah. So interesting. It's a very interesting topic. And I would totally agree to Manish. I have met so many women in my life who have been having affair outside their relationship. Okay. I have not met as many men, but the women. And what I realized was we all have this physical need and emotional need. And what makes us crave something which is not ours is generally one of the needs not being satisfied. It's like, agar cold aak ka problem hai, we go to an ophthalmologist. If you have a bone problem, you go to an orthopedic. Similarly, either you are emotionally not satisfied or physically not satisfied. That's why you're looking for someone beyond. And it was very funny that all these women, Anu, when they come to me, they say, I ask, what's the problem in your relationship? No, my husband is very caring. He's very loving. He's very respectful. I said, what is the problem then? Like, but there is something missing. There is a connect that is missing. It's not that I don't. And the whole point is they always tell me this. It's not that I don't love my husband. It's absolutely not. I still love my husband very much and I would not leave my husband. But there was some part of the whole puzzle that was missing, which is getting satisfied outside. So it was, in a way, shocking to me. And now that I was hearing, and as Vasvi rightly said, I mean, she puts it up really right. It's somewhere our demons that we're trying to face, or we are coming out of our stereotypes, and it's all about the perceptions, that we hold that men only have affair because we have seen it in the movies. We have seen it all our lives. Manish has read so many love stories. For him, love story is like a perfect thing. And I'm sure he's having a perfect relationship because he's read so many. So his mind has created it for him. So it is all the perceptions and all the beliefs that we are holding in since years, which actually start reflecting in our lives. When we don't get something, we start seeking it beyond. So we don't try to resolve. It's our very easy issue. We don't try to resolve. Aaj wardrobe mein kuch missing hai na, to hum usko, we won't try to mix and match. I don't have this. I need to go and buy a new one. It's a typical statement. We all do that.
Wow, look at the energy block. Rashmi
We
is
do
one
not try to resolve.
thing.
And one more thing, Anu, you asked was, other women can be anyone. Again, the same thing. See, if you don't emotionally connect with your partner, but you don't want to physically cheat on your partner, you might just find someone with whom you emotionally or intellectually, in fact, for that matter, intellectually also connect. So that's not cheating. I can't hear you, Anu. Your voice is lost. Your voice is not.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, now it's better.
Could it be possible that people married for
No, your voice is breaking. I don't know if others can hear you, but your voice is breaking.
Can you all hear me? Okay, it's the setup outside. Okay, so could it be possible, guys? And we'll come back with this question later. But could it be possible? And we've already shot. It's 5:21. We've already gone 1 hour 20 minutes live. We'll go for another 10 minutes and then close down the session. Could it be possible? A thought of a day that marriage is overrated. Could it be possible that this whole idea of being with one man is overrated? Or being with one woman is overrated? Could it be possible that the Bollywood and the Hollywood has sold us a dream that may be an impossible commitment to take over? Could it be possible that the reasons why in India women get married is not so that she gets a companion, but so that she doesn't get pregnant and so that she doesn't make the name of the house bad? It feels as if she is going to ever have a relationship. And what's so wrong, Yogini? Men were always having an affair. If women went and had an affair outside, it's no big deal. In our Mahabharata, we have Draupadi who's got 5 men. I mean, it was there in our culture, and all of them she satisfied. She had an option not to be their wife, but she was of them.
True, absolutely. What I was saying is you started the question with the other woman. I asked, what about the other man?
Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. And I'm talking here about that other 5 men who is already shown in our culture about 1,000 years back. Kama Sutra came from here, and somewhere we took a back seat and looked at our culture very wrongly and threw it out of the window. So we also need to introspect on these topics. But before that, let's go to Sumita and find out her views on the other woman. Pretty woman.
Okay. So I would say, Anu, it's a choice. It's a stereotype which we are creating in our minds. And it's a kind of a displacement or projection of one's own needs, where other woman or other man, but definitely there is some reason why we are doing that. And rather than just putting the blame or being judgmental, somewhere things can be worked out if the person needs to do that. You know, if you don't want to be that other woman or man, or if you don't want the other woman or man in your life, it's a choice, and everybody has a choice. So I would not say that every time the other woman or the other man is bad, and it's a kind of a learning or a experience, which, like, you just go and get an experience. So maybe some people just do it for that experience. And I don't know why we are I feel that this marketing and media has really portrayed it into in a such a bigger way, where even if it's not in our minds, they have really magnified it into a level where we really think about it as really bad, or really, be it the mom-in-laws, be it the sister-in-laws, or be it the other man or the women, it has been magnified. If it had been in our culture, and if it had been always there, why we are just doing it like a such a big hue and cry now? It has been always there. Maybe late initially it was very calmly accepted, and nobody was making a hue and cry about it, so it went like silently. I definitely agree, and awareness has been created and people are doing a lot, but then it's a choice. So everyone has a choice. You can be in sympathy, or you can be into that situation, or just get out of it. So that's my view.
We will continue this same debate on day after. That's on Thursday. on the similar lines with what Joanne said. How can we break out of the fear of these stereotypes? But for tomorrow, we're going to be talking how we can bring in, or what does passion in your life mean? Does that mean it's a man who you're talking about? Is it your sexual desire? Is it work where you have to be passionate? What does passion, this word, really mean in your life? And why are we saying we need to be passionate in our life? For day after, we will be picking up the topic that Joe suggested, which is brilliant. How do we break out of the fears of the stereotype? We will be going to day 16. The challenge is over tomorrow. But we continue because the topic that got picked up is so beautiful that I just feel that we could go there and have a look. I would really invite this panelist to be there. And if anybody else in, I would be really, really happy to have your inputs. To conclude for today, I understand that a lot has been painted by the media to sell certain things in a certain way. It's another way, it's another, you had somebody or the other always oppressing or giving a navigating tool telling us how we should be. The Barbie doll told us that we need to be size 0. It landed up with eating disabilities or eating problems, disorders that we created after that. Media tells us, and Hollywood says, only one woman, only one man. And I often go back to that day when I spoke to my dad on their 50th anniversary. My dad's not there anymore, but when he was alive on the 50th anniversary, I asked my dad, is my mom your best friend? Is she your lover? Who is she in your life, Dad? I need that answer. And he looked at me and said, Beta, she's my wife. I asked my mom the same question. Mom, is my papa your lover? Is he your friend? Is he your father? Who is he? And she said, he's my husband. So we've made ourselves fit into roles. And in that roles, we are leaving our identity behind. We're becoming someone we should never be. These roles are molding us to play certain roles. Somewhere our spontaneity is lost. Somewhere I wish my parents were friends more than husband and wife. I wish they had told me on that day, Bete, we both still make passionate love at 50. And when our father kisses me, my body lights up. And I wish my mom had said, he is one man who I melt into. But that's not what I heard. I heard that they were husband and wife, whatever that meant. I can still ask my mom because she's there, but I don't know whether I will ever get that answer on the other side because my father's not there in the world anymore. So before people are not there in your life, tell them what they are to you. It doesn't matter whether you are a lover, a vamp, a mother-in-law, a mother. Get out of the roles, guys, and tell them what you really want to tell them, being just yourself as plain who you are. And that's what I've understood today. I'm going to go over to Manish to conclude the same story. What do you say would be your last words for this panel today, for this discussion today?
Is that me? You referring to Anu?
Yes, yes.
Okay, so the
Wait, wait.
last word here is something which I've lived for about 50 years. Live life king size.
Wow. Sumita, over to you.
I believe in choice, Anu. So we all have the choices to connect or disconnect. And I believe that that's just in whatever role you are, in whatever way you are doing it. If you can connect, that's very good. So you've lived the life fully.
Wonderful. Let's go to Vasavi.
I think I will conclude with this thought for everyone. It's more like a question. Would we have liked Cinderella as much if she had not been oppressed? Would we have liked Snow White as much if maybe she was the one who was looking in the mirror and wanting to find out whether she was the prettiest girl in the world or the prettiest girl, would we have still liked her? Or does it and is this like this subconsciously this need to be liked? We all have this need to be liked and to be the princess or the prince in our own lives, in our own narratives. So there is one thing, yes, the fairy tales were promoting this, but why did we like those characters? So that is what I think the question we need to ask ourselves is that why did we like them? Would we have still liked them as much if they were different?
Brilliant. Thank you so much. Yogini, how would you conclude this session? You still there, Yogini?
Yeah, I'm still there. Just was about to leave.
Okay.
That's the issue. Okay, I think I'll conclude it to the point. Let's start with where we started. The villains, Ram, Ravan. But the conclusion is this whole life is a perception. Best is use your logic, learn. Rather than creating someone as a villain or something bad and good, learn. What did I learn from this? Don't live in perceptions of what other people are telling. Use your brain, use your logic. That's why God has given you the brain. Otherwise, you would have only the heart. So use your brain. Don't go by other people's perception. Don't judge people by what others have said.
Wonderful.
And I think let's start creating a generation that believes in that, Don't tell your children story of Cinderella. Say, okay, now if she lost her shoe, what would Cinderella do next? Would she tell the prince the truth? Would she tell her love? We had this, my daughter's school had this, complete the story with a twist. And they were given all these princess stories and say, okay, now Cinderella left the ball and she lost her shoe. What happens next? And my daughter and me brainstormed and I said, Yana, she should be truthful. I think she should go to the prince right at that moment and say, you know what? I really like you, but this is not me. And it was lovely. I mean, I was in appraisal of the school. I like, wow, what a concept. And I really love the movie Frozen because it does not show that a man is needed. Frozen is an amazing movie. It shows why women are strong enough.
Poor man gets so battered in our country.
No, men are not wrong, but if man doesn't need a woman to grow, why does a woman need a man to grow? It's like, live your life. You have the power, use it.
So many women and men are thinking that one child, then there is no need to close to each other. I really understand what you're saying. Let's go to Rashmi. Rashmi, how would you conclude?
Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
I understood that people go through all go through their own stories and all have stories to share. And I love being on the panel because I can understand so many things from so many perspectives.
Okay.
Thank you.
If you could conclude. And I came to you last because you're the most graceful. I don't know. I was just thinking personally, you're so calm and graceful. That's such a nice way to kind of bring a closure to this talk. Thank you. Really acknowledge that about you.
I'm so sorry. Whom are you talking to? The net connection. Joe. Okay. Okay.
If you can please conclude and bring the closure to this talk today. Thank you.
Sorry, I thought you were talking to Dr. Rashmi, and I felt exactly that. That Dr. Rashmi brings all this wisdom and calm, and I was yes.
I was thinking it, Joe.
So yeah, exactly. Building on what Dr. Rashmi and Yogini have just said, it's like we're all creating our own stories. We're all the protagonists of our own stories, and all of these archetypes are actually aspects within us. So no matter who we are, we've got access to everything. And I also really love the sharing and the stories from everybody. So thank you. This is really wonderful.
Thank you so much. We'll be meeting tomorrow at the same time at 4 o'clock, and we will be talking tomorrow about passion in our life and what does that word passion really mean. For day after, we will be picking up the talk. How can we break out of the fear of the stereotypes that we've created around us, the woman, the man, the rules, and everything. So I'm really looking forward to the next two talks. 2 days. I think the voice is going a little It's kind of okay. So thank you very much. Thank you, Manish. Thank you, Joe. Thank you, Dr. Rashmi. Thank you, Sumita. Thank you, Vasavi. Thank you, Yogini and Gopu sir.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.